lucky to have our guest here tonight. What some of you may not know about her is that she served here on the board of directors of the Screen Actors Guild for 2 terms, or twice as the second vice president, right? Isn't that correct? So not only has she achieved so much in her career, but she has given back to this union, and we're proud to call her a member. She studied at the neighborhood Playhouse. She's worked on Broadway. She has starred in films, working with directors like Clint Eastwood in the thriller play Misty For Me. She has been a staple on television most of the time that all of us have been watching television, and I just threw down some of the titles. Think if you could put all of these shows on your resume. Route 66, Alfred Hitchcock Hour, Night Gallery, The Nurses, The Defenders, The Rogues, The Fugitive, The FBI. Then came Bronson, Mannix, Columbo, Banachek, Cannon, Barnaby Jones, Ironside, McLeod, Quincy, Wonder Woman, Streets of San Francisco, Marcus Welby, MD, Medical Center, Trapper John, MD. We're covering all the medical shows there. The Love Boat, Love American Style, Joni Loves Chachi. Just Shoot Me, Babylon 5, Law and Order, just to name a few of them. She now, of course, appears on the highly acclaimed Arrested Development, where she plays the wonderfully delicious, neurotic matriarch, Lucille
Bluth.
Thank you very much. It's her 4th Emmy nomination. Please give a warm Screen Actors Guild welcome to Miss Jessica Walter.
Hi, oh, thank you. Oh, wow. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Wow.
I couldn't believe I blanked out on the last name there.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's
Lucille
okay.
Bluth. What did you
Lucille
think
Bluth.
when you first read that script and saw it?
I thought it was great.
Oh.
Yes,
Yeah.
I had a couple of scripts were sent to me, and I said, this is the one that I want. Then they weren't seeing people. And I live in New York.
Yeah.
And of course, the day that I went back, they said, oh, well, they'll see you. But they'll only see you in LA.
Today. Yeah, I don't
So
right.
I did something that I don't usually do. I hadn't done it in a long time because auditions on videotape are horrific. And I really find it's hard to do well on them.
Yeah.
You've got everybody knows this, you've got the casting director who can barely speak.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And sometimes they're on the phone or or they're rolling a camera as they're giving you the cues. It's a terrible, horrible experience. I don't know how people can do well, but I like this so much, and I knew that I didn't have a shot unless I went on tape. So I did go on tape, and it's a wonderful casting woman named Marcia DeBenis in New York. Was the New York casting person who had been an actress. And who was so helpful and so wonderful that I really felt good about the audition. And the next day, they pouched it to LA, and I got a call, to come to LA. They would fly me out to meet the Fox execs, and that very day after I met them, they said, you have the role. So all's well that ends well.
That's good that they didn't string you on for weeks, because that sometimes happens too, doesn't it?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the funny thing about this job was that I had, packed for the test a couple of days, stuff, and I was going to go back. Yeah. And they said, oh, no, you can't go back. We're starting the table reads and this.
Oh, my God.
I said, I don't even have my medications. I didn't take enough pills. So they gave me, I made quite a stink actually, because I brought for 2 days. I was going to be there for like 3 weeks.
Right.
And they said, well, you can buy some clothes, but try to keep it under $300. So I went right to the $300 mark. I think I bought underwear and some T-shirts and stuff, and it came to about $295, and I bought a pair of socks just to make the $300.
See, I would have gone 301 just to piss them off,
Well,
yeah.
And they would have been pissed off.
They would have too, wouldn't they? Yeah. What do you think makes? I mean, I know it's hard to question success like this, but what do you think makes this cast and this program so special? Because I mean, the first time I tuned into it, I went, "Oh my God, this is like nothing I've ever seen."
Wow.
It was,
we have really good writers.
Yeah.
There's an old saying in the theater: if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage.
Yeah.
And it really is true. If you don't have good writing, forget it.
Yeah.
And we have wonderful writers, and our creative, the man who created the show, Mitch Hurwitz, is quite brilliant.
Yeah.
that's I think 90% of it. I think the other percentage, Kazan said this once, he said, 90% of success, and if you have a good script, is casting.
Yeah.
And we have a wonderful ensemble.
What a great cast.
They're really terrific.
Do you have as much fun doing the work as it would appear?
No.
No. Yeah.
I'll tell you why, though.
Please.
Because it's so rushed.
Yeah.
It's such a struggle to do good work under the conditions of rushing like that.
Yeah.
Getting the scripts in the middle of the night for the next day. It's just awful. I know this is not going to be used anywhere.
No,
So
just archive.
Just
between
gone
us.
through it today, arguing, begging for like another day before I have to do 4 pages.
Yeah.
When I'll get the script in the middle of the night.
Right.
So that's the only downside.
And they shoot that one camera, right? Is it like film
They
style?
shoot
or
actually.
is it?
It's sort of like guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah.
Digital.
So
no lighting.
Yeah. How'd you feel
No
about
beauty
that?
lighting. Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah. It's the gig. Yeah.
It's the way it is now. They can shoot, thousands of things because there's no film. They're not paying for any film.
Yeah.
So we have about sometimes 4 cameras shooting, handhelds.
Yeah.
Everything is handheld.
Wow. Do you find that more a more freeing kind of environment to work in, or is it?
Not for me.
No. Yeah.
I'm from the old school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really am. But I
Yeah.
can do it. I do it. You have to go with it. But
Yeah.
I when you have good writing, in my opinion,
Yeah.
for instance, having done Neil Simon plays and what have you, you don't change an and a but when you've got good writing. I especially in comedy, it's just going to be so precise.
Right.
So we do very little of that
Very little
on our
improv
show.
on the
Very little improv, believe it or not.
Uh-huh.
Because the writing's good and it has to be crisp.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's kind of go back to the beginning of things and start at the beginning.
It's funny when he was reading all those things. Somebody once sent me from the internet like a thing this thick, and I thought this just proves I'm old. That there's so many pages. Oh my God!
You've got a wonderful career, though.
I've been very lucky,
Yeah.
very fortunate, and I've hung in there.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been, great,
Right. Right.
but perseverance counts for a lot.
Yes. Yeah. You were a graduate of the New York High School
Actually,
for
Performing
Performing
Arts
Arts.
High School,
High school. What
Great
was that
school.
like?
It was great.
Yeah.
That was the old PA on 46th, between 6th and 7th. Now it has merged with music and art, and it's become the LaGuardia School. But in those days, music and art was music and art, and we had drama, dance, and some music. 2 separate schools. It was a wonderful place, wonderful. I learned a lot there.
When did you know that you wanted to be a performer? How early on was it?
Well, my mother says from when I was about 3, which nobody quite understands because I don't think we'd even seen movies then. We didn't have TV. And I'd seen Bambi. I'd seen some Disney movies. Now, why that would make me want to be an actress, I don't know. But
that did.
But I had always had a passion for it. So there you go.
Your father is a musician.
Yes, he was.
Yes?
He died 2 years ago. He was
Yes.
with Toscanini in the NBC Symphony.
Yeah.
And taught at Juilliard. It was with the New York City Ballet for, like 55 years. And played with Casals. He was one of the top bass violinists in the world, actually.
Did you go to his concerts when you
did.
were growing up? Yeah.
I
So you
did.
were around it. I mean,
Yes.
maybe it soaked in.
Yes.
Huh?
And his twin sister and brother were also bass violinists.
Really?
If you can picture 3
Wow.
children,
family, all
3
of-
siblings playing the bass. And my uncle Jerry Jarrett was an actor. He was understudying in Tevye. And who else do we have in our family? My cousin Risa Jaroslaw is a very well-known modern dancer. My brother Richard Walter is chairman of the UCLA screenwriting department.
That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
film and television, chairman. So we...
So there's something in the genes there.
It must be. And my daughter, actually, I'm very proud of. She's on the other side. She's on vice president of development at ABC Family.
Oh, great.
And they're trying to make their own brand and have a couple of series on that she was instrumental in getting on. So I said, when I'm really gray and like shaking on my cane, I'm gonna come to you for a job.
Well, let's see if that pays off, right?
Yeah, listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, she actually suggested me to some people for a voiceover for some animated thing, and I didn't get it.
Oh.
So there.
So nepotism is not alive and well. Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Doesn't always
No
work.
more auditioning for her. Either I get it or I don't.
That's right. Yeah, offers only. So after you graduated from the High School of Performing Arts, then what was the next stage
Then I
of
went to the
things?
neighborhood Playhouse.
Yeah.
Which was a wonderful school.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Still in existence. Oh, and speaking of schools, I'm very proud to say that my husband, who's a wonderful actor named Ron Leibman. Yay. He and a proud guild member for almost as long as I've been. He's older than I am, but I started younger.
You started before,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
I think I'm in this union, I know it's over 40 years.
Do you remember the job that earned you your SAG card by any chance?
I think it was Route 66. That was my
Was it?
first TV job ever. And there was a thing where you could have Taft-Hartley, I think. You could do one job.
And you had 30 days to actually join before.
Yes. But anyway, Ron he's the chairman of the drama department, acting faculty at the new school. James Lipton left.
Yeah.
And who's been on our show, by the way. And I understand that I'm going to have a flirtation with him in order to get my husband out of jail. But he left, and then so Ron doesn't have Ron didn't want the administrative responsibilities, but he is running the faculty there, and he's also he works
Quite
as
a lot.
well. So very proud of him and the job they're doing there.
Yeah. So the neighborhood Playhouse, when you were there, who were your contemporaries? Who else?
Okay, here's who was in the group with me. My class was Brenda Vaccaro, Christopher Lloyd. This was a good class. Dabney Coleman, Jerry Weintraub, who then became a tycoon producer. Jean Hale, who was a beautiful actress who was married to Dabney and had done a lot of those, James Coburn movies, and wait a minute, I'm leaving out people I know. Elizabeth Ashley. Elizabeth Ashley, oh my gosh. I don't know how many people I mentioned, but I hope I didn't leave anybody out. But it was a great group.
And did you work directly with
James
Mr.
Caan. Did I say James Caan?
No,
He
you
was in our
didn't.
class.
That's an important one.
Yeah.
And were you working directly with Sanford Meisner, or
That's
who
the
was it?
year, actually, he was ill.
Oh,
I auditioned for him,
Uh-huh.
and then he became ill, and David Pressman took over,
Uh-huh.
who was great.
Yeah.
Great. And that place was just very special.
What did you learn there? I mean, that's such a general question, but what,
Well, I learned a great respect for what we do, and a discipline and a foundation, technique, all the things that really stand you in good stead later on when you are like under pressure, like we are under the gun here.
Right.
The show of what I was explaining before.
Right.
It really, I always think you can tell a theater actor. You can tell people that plant their feet on the stage, and it gave us that. So did performing arts.
Yeah.
But it also gave us a great respect for the writer, that the actor's job is to fulfill the writer's intentions, which I think gets lost a lot in TV.
Yeah.
It becomes about something else. It's our job is to serve the author. That really was ingrained. We had dance, we had fencing, voice and diction. It was all very important. But there's nothing like working for experience.
Yeah.
I found. When you're actually up there and you have to do it, that's where I've really learned a lot.
That's where the theater training really
Right, and I started in theater,
Yeah.
and I really,
Right.
I learned a lot. My first experience was at Bucks County Playhouse. I was an apprentice,
Yes.
and I worked with Herbert Berghoff. Middle of the Night, I had a little part in that. George Voskovic, who was a wonderful actor. People here are so young, I don't think they know any of these people I'm talking about. But anyway.
The Buck County Playhouse
Bucks
still
County.
has the website up with your picture as above.
Do they?
Yes, they do.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Wow. I just did a show actually right before I came here at the Berkshire Theater Festival.
Oh, really?
Which I love. Mosquitoes and all. Side by Sondheim.
Oh,
we
how
just
fun.
did. That was wonderful. And I love to do my little plays. It's so important for me.
Yeah.
I had worked there 2 years ago. I did a new play with Richard Chamberlain.
Really?
And a lot of, it's funny, one review said, well, nice to see all these 60s actors, but they had Lois Nettleton, Keir Delay, me, Richard Chamberlain, a couple of other,
Yeah.
At any rate, I love going back to the theater. I feel like it refuels.
Reconnect you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We've heard so many people talk about the differences between stage acting and film acting. For you, what's the primary difference? What is it that...
I don't really see a big difference. I think if you're doing the truth of the character, I feel in our show that we have energy and we have, you could put that on a stage, some of those scenes, and of course you would project a little bit louder, but the truth is the truth, whether it's, up here in a little close-up or on a big stage.
So primarily it's just a matter of scale and...
I guess. I guess there is a special stage energy, but I don't know. I think really interesting film actors have that, even in a close-up on a screen.
Yeah.
I don't see...
And yet you just a moment ago you were saying you can always tell a stage actor. And,
you can.
Because of maybe the...
can't you?
Oh yeah, I'm just probing here to see what your observations are. Yeah,
it doesn't have to do with volume. It has to do with an energy, I think.
And perhaps those years of being on stage and getting that immediate feedback from the audience of what's working and what doesn't. Maybe.
Yeah, and that's so hard when you're filming TV, especially comedy, when we do it over like 50 times. And
do you sometimes just not know? Do you feel like maybe it's
I
not
know
funny?
when it's funny, and I know when it's not.
Yeah.
That I can tell you. I hear the music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's a struggle I have too, because they'll take a take that I know wasn't funny. So I don't want to give them the chance. I get into little things, tiffs.
Yeah, push back.
Quiet tiffs where they'll say, well, just try it this way. And I'll say, no. No, because I know they'll use it if they get it.
Right. Well, see, that's...
And I know, the characters that I play, I feel that I know them well enough to know when they're not funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
I don't think I want to be on the wrong side of that, right?
Well, it's difficult.
Yeah.
I'm being really kind of honest here.
Well, good.
So many times, there's so much kind of BS, when you. But I can't explain it.
In this business? No.
But with actors, with this union, this kind of
yeah.
gathering, which I so appreciate people coming to, by the way. The nightmare is, oh my God, nobody will show up. But it's, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy. And it's hard for me because I try to please people. I do try to please people, and I've learned to watch out for that. Because in the end, it bites you in the tush when you do that.
It's a funny,
My darling friend, I love her so. This is a dear old friend, not old, but an old friend. Hi, Sue, a wonderful writer. And you know how we met? This is really interesting. Sue Cameron was what was the name of the column that you did in the Hollywood Reporter? Coast to Coast, which in the 70s was like the big column in the Hollywood Reporter. And I was on a show called Amy Prentiss, a TV show.
A wonderful show.
And she kept writing about it. And I think did I write you back a letter, thank you? And then one day she came over to me at some function and she said, I'm Sue Cameron and we've been friends ever since.
Oh, great. That was a good show, Amy Prentiss.
Amy Prentiss didn't last long, but I did get an Emmy for it.
Yes, you did.
I did.
Yeah.
Canceled. It was canceled.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? You win an Emmy and then they cancel it.
And Ron, shortly thereafter, got an Emmy for a show that was canceled. Kaz. So
Network Geniuses, right? That's I don't know.
My show, that was the year, actually. They're all so young, these people. But that was the year that there was this guy called the Mad Programmer, Marvin Antonowski. He was one of the VPs or one of the big execs at NBC. And every Every woman's show that year was canceled. Lee Grant had a show. There were several women's shows, and he just canceled them all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wouldn't get away with that now, would you?
I don't know. I can't figure out how they work it.
Yeah.
I really can't. But the fact that we're still here
That's a good
and our ratings are not good is credit to Fox for sticking with us. I do give them a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
Of course, they don't want the responsibility for canceling shows that have 11 Emmy nominations.
There's that. So after, as you were working at the neighborhood Playhouse, I'm going back now a little bit again, then you started getting some roles
I
in
did.
theater,
The neighborhood Playhouse,
Broadway.
they would have a final production at the end of the second year. And all the big agents came. That school had a really good rep, and the big agents came, and an agent from MCA came, which was, eventually defunct.
Yeah. Right.
Because it was a monopoly from Universal or whatever. And a really good agent, signed me. And I went out, oh my God, for a screen test. Some talent scout from Columbia, Joy Selznick, a lovely woman. Related actually to the famous Selznick family.
David O.
I was 17 years old, and it was for a movie called A Summer Place that Sandra Dee, of course, got. We all know that. And I'd never been out of New York City, and they sent my mother because I was a minor.
Right.
And we went to California. We thought it's going to be the tropics.
Right.
So it was in January. It was freezing. We bought little halters, and we were in this motel near Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And we thought this thing was a hamper. We kept throwing our, laundry into it. And at the end of the stay, the motel owner said, "Well, did you ladies have a nice stay?" And we said, "It was a little cold." We were freezing. Yeah. He said, "Well, didn't you turn on the heater?" That we thought it was a hamper. We kept throwing things. It was the heater. And that was the first time that I ever saw a person watch themselves on TV. There was a girl in our neighbor Playhouse class named Holly McIntyre, and her father was John McIntyre, a wonderful character actor who was on Naked City at the time. And Holly's parents invited my mother and myself over for dinner, and it happened to be the night that show was on. Yeah. And I remember he turned it on, and we were so, when you think how innocent, back then, it was oh my God. Yeah. There was no tape machines. It was just astounding. Right. And I didn't get the part. And you know what? It was a blessing, because I would have been like a little starlet at Warner Brothers, and it was for a reason. Yeah. But I did have my little Sandra Dee type suit that I wore to every audition. It was a little flowered suit.
Stock and trade, right?
Yeah. That thing's got a lot of use, I'll tell you.
So did you stay out in Hollywood then when you came out, or you guys went back?
Yeah. Went back, and phew, thank goodness.
Yeah. Now you did some work on stage. You did some Broadway.
I did mostly Broadway. My first Broadway show was Advising Consent. Yeah. That was in about 19. Actually, I was a replacement. This is wild, folks. I was walking along the street, and a fellow stopped me, a very nice young man. He said, "Are you an actress?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, we're looking for somebody to be an understudy." I told him I was going to the neighbor Playhouse. He said, "We're looking for somebody to be an understudy for Jane Fonda in this play, There Was a Little Girl." Oh, wow. I was living in Queens with the family. Oh, wow. So anyway, I then got the measles, and I was out of the running. He then called me for another show, Advising Consent. Yeah. I didn't have an agent, nothing at that point. And I got the job. I also met my first husband. He was a stage manager. So very, very little eventful. Yeah. Walking down the street that day.
Imagine if you had taken a left instead of a right.
Oh my God!
What would have happened?
It's true. Yeah. I never thought of that. So that's how it started. I was an understudy to the leading lady, and I had a small part. And then the next show I got right after that. In those days, there were 35 new plays a year. Right. It was a whole nother story. And every September, there were tons of new plays opening. And then the next play I got was called A Little Night Music. It was called, believe it or not. Wow. And Sidney Kingsley was the writer. Huh. It didn't,
Yeah.
goodbye,
Yeah.
6 weeks. Then was A Severed Head, which was an English play. Then what was after that? There were several off-Broadways and stuff. And then finally, we bit the bullet. We went out to LA.
Did you have an agent when you came out? Or
Oh, yes.
You had some interest in
it's funny. I've really always had an agent. Not always been happy with them. But thank God. 'Cause I don't know how people do it on their own. I really don't. It's awful. And I don't know how we do it with some of the agents.
That's a whole other topic. We could talk about that quite a bit. Do you have a manager as well?
No, I've never had a manager.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Why would I want to give away another 10%? I mean, I don't get it.
Yeah.
But it's a whole other world now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what my theory is about managers? Of course, this is somebody, talking from my older viewpoint. If you don't have a good agent, you need a manager. If you have a good agent, why would you need a manager? I don't understand it. Yeah. But all the young people I know, they have them.
Yeah.
It's bad enough, as far as I'm concerned, to have to go through all the, you know what I mean? To talk to somebody, you have to go through 3 people. You know what I'm saying?
At your agency, you mean?
Well, not the agency, but even to make a point, let's say, with a producer or something. Some things you have to tell the agent to tell the line producer, who then tells. It's.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have patience anymore for that stuff.
Yeah.
Getting there, getting crotchety.
Crotchety is not a word we can apply to you yet.
Yeah, well.
Now, let me ask, you were talking earlier about that you like to please, but you also know what works and what doesn't work. Has anybody ever told you you're difficult? I mean, a lot of actors hear that. And, what would that mean to you? I mean, some people
Well,
say,
I've never heard that, actually, because I'm basically, more professional than most people.
Right.
And, of course, I can't even tell you how many times I compromise during a day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I just think you have to have a point beyond which you don't go.
Absolutely.
Or else, you're just putty in people's hands. You know what I mean? There's got to be an artistic point that you say
this is
the line.
Yeah.
And no, I've never been called difficult. Maybe the other actors will think I'm a pain because I'm a perfectionist. I remember one show I did, which shall remain nameless, a few years ago, about 5, a series. And the star, whom I adored, actually, this girl who played my daughter, the director came to me one day, who was our main director. Anyway, I won't tell you, but it was a show called Oh Baby. It was on Lifetime.
Right, okay.
And it was one of those, don't tell anybody. And we did it. It was like a regular series, sort of Monday table read. It was very civilized, 10 o'clock the next day till 2. Very banker's hours, let's put it that way. And you would do a scene, sort of block it maybe once, and then the next day do it once. To me, rehearsal is discovery. Yeah. If you don't rehearse, you're not going to discover anything. Right. And I would always beg for more rehearsals. Right. And the girl who played my daughter was a wonderful actress. She had a young baby, whatever. She came from the Valley. It was in Sony. It was hard for her to get there. Whatever the story was, right. The director came in and he said, we're having a problem because, our star, you're asking for too many rehearsals or whatever. And I said, your point is well taken. I'm going to try to, change my working process. But I mean, don't take the job if you can't be there. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I love this girl. She was great. But, we had a chance to really do something. And you can't do it if you don't work at it.
Seems antithetical to the process, doesn't it?
It's like those series that are on for years and they do them in 2 days now.
Yeah.
Or a day they go in.
Right.
How can you?
I don't know.
I would feel guilty. I really would.
Like you haven't done the work? Yeah.
That's why I get crazy when the scripts come in the middle of the night, because I don't have time to really do the work. You know what I mean? The process of doing the work is so joyful to me. Making choices, letting it sift around. I mean, how can you do that if you get the script in the middle of the night and all you're doing is memorizing the lines poorly because you're so nervous? you know, you don't have a chance to really discover what the scene is about.
Right. Do you think that's part of the problem? I mean, right now with television, they're struggling to find their audience. They're losing their audience. Movies are as well. Do you think it's just that the structure, the business structure, isn't letting people do the best work? Is that?
Well, I don't think in films. Well, I don't know. You know, now with digital and films too, they rush.
I've heard people say we're not shooting a film, we're shooting a budget.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, but they used to say that in the old days too.
Did they?
At Universal,
Okay.
I remember they used to say, we don't want it good. We want it by 7 o'clock. So I think that's always been a struggle. But you know, if there's a really good movie, people go and they make money on it.
Yeah.
You know.
But it would be nice if they let you do
Well,
your work the way that you need to do your work, I suppose.
Yeah. And that's why I think the theater is great, because in the long run, you are in charge.
Right.
You know, once that show opens, there's nobody editing, there's nobody cutting. You sort of can do it from the beginning to the end without interference. You know, and try to find new things every night. It's I love all that.
Yeah. Do you have a process when you approach a role that's fairly consistent, or is each role different in how you approach it?
Well, I have my, you know, I think about what the character wants. I think I use the same method, you know, for every role. What is the main thing that, I think with Lucille, for instance, I always try to find that easy handle from which everything springs. And with Lucille, which is why I don't question a lot of the insane things that Lucille does, because if I did, I wouldn't show up. Let's put it that way. But how I justify it is that when people are desperate, they go to lengths, you know. And Lucille is desperate. She's desperate to maintain the lifestyle that she had before her husband, you know, got involved in his fraudulent ways, and the money is going down or whatever. And you know, from that basis of truth, things make sense. So I always look for that. What is this character's goal in this piece? What do they really want? And things from that handle, I remember it played Misty, for instance, which was not difficult. You know, it wasn't, because I really had a good handle. It was that if this woman didn't have this man's love, she would die. And that, from that sprang the whole lengths to which she would, the desperation. If you think, if you're going to die,
you can justify
you know, you there's no lengths to which you won't go to save your life. It made perfect sense to me.
Strong choice, too.
Well, but you have to make strong choices.
Yeah. Not
You have
everyone
to.
does, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
sometimes we're scared to make those strong choices, you know?
You think so? I don't
No,
think
I don't know.
any
I-
actor worth
you
his
know.
salt would be afraid to make a strong choice. No.
Okay.
Because that's the first thing that I was taught. I'm sure a lot of these folks too, is, you know, what's the character's intention? You know, what do you want to accomplish in the scene? And you have to pick high stakes. You know, when we did Rumors, Neil Simon play, he, in the previews or whatever, he originally, the main character, it was all about this fellow that died. You know, we came to a party and the host had died up in the room. I'm trying to read it. They said that he was like a businessman or something. And then what Neil Simon, he realized that the stakes had to be higher. He had to be like, he made him the deputy mayor of New York, so that there'd be scandal involved. Was it, you know, conspiracy and some kind of, you know, underhanded money goings on? The stakes were higher and made everything work.
Yeah. So the...
Sort of like life.
Yeah, kind of, huh?
You know, it's...
Higher the stakes?
Well, the stakes today are really high. I mean, I can't even... I'm not going to go into that, certainly not. It's too depressing, but anyway. You know, and I think the stakes are high for our union, too. I think it's really important that people get involved and that they vote, and that member apathy was always the hardest thing in this union. I'll never understand it. And I learned so much about the rules that protect me that I've used my whole life long. That people say, "Ooh, you mean it's not a meal if they don't serve it hot and it can't be in a box?" I mean, who would know all this? You've taken an interest in it.
Right. I think there's sort of a general belief out there that maybe, people who've achieved a certain level in their career don't really need the union, but that's not the case, is it?
The people that formed our union, as you probably know, I think it was James Cagney and Robert Montgomery, huge, big stars, who certainly didn't need it as much as the rank and file, but they realized how important it was that without a union, with Actors Equity, they used to leave people stranded on railroad stations without pay.
There's a wonderful recording that our archivist has shared with us, Boris Karloff, talking about his experiences working on Frankenstein prior to the union being formed. 18 hours in full Frankenstein makeup, running up a hill in the middle of summer out in the valley, and then coming back and working, the better part of the night.
And, no turnarounds.
Right.
And when people in the old days, I don't know if they do this anymore, but I remember on some movies, the weeks, the stars, and very nice people, but so not into the union, they would waive their turnarounds. And I remember I went to one woman who's a pretty big star, and I said, I don't think you understand how bad this is for everybody. We worked to kill to get these rules, and when you waive them because you're making $250,000 or whatever, and you want to do the producers a favor, it's bad for your fellow workers. And I must say that she rescinded it and she didn't do it. But they don't know. It's not as if they're doing something vicious. They're just ignorant.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we're in the middle of another election, so everybody should vote. If you're not planning on voting, change your plans and get out there and vote.
Yeah, I'm concerned about some of the things that these people are saying. I'm particularly concerned because we didn't get merger, that people like me, for instance, who are total unionists from way back, who I'm now working under AFTRA, maybe somebody saying that I can't vote because I didn't work under a SAG contract in a year. I've been working under an AFTRA contract. So what can I do about that? So I shouldn't be able to vote? That really got me when I read about people asking for that. I mean, it's like when I was on the board, they were talking about keeping membership down. This is way back in the 70s, and they said, well, we'll have a panel that will judge, who should be in and who isn't. I said, I don't want to be on that panel judging people.
Yeah, the acting
judging
police.
Who's talented, who isn't.
But
this is this concern. It concerns me. It really does.
Well, you're somebody who has worked under all of the union's contracts, and you said it before.
SAG's is the best.
Yeah.
I will tell you that. There's no question. The other two unions are lacking compared to SAG, in my opinion.
Right.
And that's, of course, why maybe we should have had merger.
Right. Well,
I'm not saying that I voted for it, but I'm saying
I understand.
Maybe we should.
Most people said, even the folks that voted against it said, I'm not necessarily against merger. I just don't like this plan. So maybe
there were too many unanswered questions.
To,
what would be with the health insurance people that were double insured?
Right.
What would be with the pensions? Although they say that the pensions wouldn't have been able to have been touched. People that have worked with double pensions. There were too many unanswered questions, but I think it has a good chance if they'll answer those questions.
I think so too, and I think it's critical. We have to find a way to merge the structures so that we're not undercutting one another.
I know, and that's what's happened. These producers with digital bargain, and they get the better bargain from AFTRA, and the members suffer.
This is such a great object lesson. She clearly has read her magazine.
Wow.
She knows what the issues are. I hope some of you are feeling a little ashamed of yourselves out there.
Wow.
Take that magazine and toss it away. So
it's. But to serve the guild is really where I really learned a lot. It was a wonderful experience.
Great.
I highly recommend it. To get involved.
Great. Yes.
Okay.
So let's meanwhile back at the ranch. When you came out to Los Angeles, you had an agent. You started getting out there. You started landing some roles.
Well, I came out I didn't come out looking for work.
Yeah.
I came out because I had
Because
work.
you had work.
Yeah,
What
I
did they
never
bring
came
out
here
for?
ever looking for work.
Isn't that great? What did they bring
Ever.
out for?
TV shows in the beginning. In those days, Quinn Martin Productions and what have you.
Yeah.
Sue is smiling. She remembers all those days.
I remember these names.
They'd fly you at the drop of a hat first class and pay you a ton of money, if you were a New York actor.
Yeah.
That whole, it was a whole nother. So I was out here a lot, and that's why in the middle of a garbage strike in New York and a subway strike, my husband and I decided it's time to leave.
Yeah.
And we couldn't take it anymore. And because I was always coming out here.
Uh-huh.
And I was here for 29 years. I lived out here. We always kept the apartment. I always had an apartment, or whoever I was married to at the time had the apartment. So I never gave up my digs. But about in 1998, we decided. Ron and I decided. While my daughter was growing up, and we just decided we'd had it out here. We love the East. We're from the East. We had this fantasy of having a country house with land. So we sold a house in LA, and we were able to get that. We have a house in Pound Ridge, which is so beautiful. And it's funny because the week that we sold the house, that we had to actually, the escrow was closing. Ron got a pilot, and I got a pilot. And they both sold.
Weird.
We had to rent. We have the Hotel Montrose, the Montrose Hotel. I tried to get out of the escrow, and I couldn't.
Oh my goodness.
So that's the thing. If you move away,
if you make a major commitment,
yes. And my show actually ran for 2 years, and I was renting an apartment.
Wow.
I could have easily stayed in my house for 2 more years. I mean, it's a riot.
Yeah. So.
I should always have these problems. Believe me, I appreciate them.
Good
I
problems
appreciate
to have,
them.
aren't they? Yeah. Fairly early on, you got quite a role in the film Lilith, which was
that was my first movie.
Amazing film. I love it.
But nobody saw it. That's the problem. It was my first movie, and it was Gene Hackman's first movie. We played husband and wife. Warren Beatty and Gene Seberg, Kim Hunter, Peter Fonda. Robert Rossen was the director, wonderful, famous director. And that was my first movie.
Film,
and that was in New York. And then my second film, I really was doing stuff in New York. My second film was The Group, Sidney Lumet. That was in New York too.
Yeah.
Oh, if one lady saw the film.
Oh no, there's actually a couple of questions in here about The Group. I think we're going to have to pull those out.
That was a great experience. Great experience.
Tell us
wonderful script. Sidney Buckman, famous screenwriter. Sidney Lumet. We had the Sidneys. Wonderfully talented women. Joan Hackett, Elizabeth Hartman, both of whom are not with us anymore. Candice Bergen, Shirley Knight. The men were as fabulous. We had Larry Hagman, James Broderick, who was Matthew's father, wonderful, wonderful actor, and Richard Mulligan. He and Joan Hackett then got married after the movie. Kathleen Widows was in it. It was Mary Robin Red. It was a wonderful movie, wonderful experience. And then there was, let me just see, in New York there were movies.
Well, here's a quick question on The Group here.
Okay.
This is from Sue. Maybe she's the one in the audience that you just... she said, please describe your experience shooting The Group, particularly what Joan Hackett and Elizabeth Hartman were like.
Oh, well, Joan was so special. I mean, does anybody here remember Joan Hackett? Yeah, she was sort of like Kay Kendall.
Yeah.
And very talented, beautiful in this aristocratic, special way. So talented. She was wonderful in the movie. She, unfortunately, she died at about 50. She was 50. She had cancer. And it was kind of weird, I'll tell you. I don't know if it was, but we all went to her funeral. This was years after The Group. Right. And there's a scene in The Group. We all go to Kay's funeral. Oh. And there we are sitting there. It's like, what is art imitating life or life? It was so strange because all of the remaining people from The Group were at this funeral. And Elizabeth Hartman, I don't even want to go into that. But anyway, no, it was just so sad because she was so talented and lovely. Yeah. What was the question? What was it like working with them?
What was the experience like working on that film? maybe we could touch
It
a
was
little
great.
bit on Sidney Lumet's style.
Sydney is wonderful. I did another movie with Sydney, and Ron has worked with him too. I did another little strange little movie that was really wonderful, but nobody saw it. Bye Braverman. Yeah,
yes.
Bye Braverman. And Sydney is just, I was fortunate enough to work with him. They just bring out the best in you. The good directors sort of create this climate, like Clint Eastwood did too, that you feel safe and you can try things and you don't feel like you can't make a mistake.
Right.
They were two of my absolute favorites. It all is sort of in a blur right now, but it was a wonderful experience.
With a director like Sidney Lumet, does he talk to you a lot about the character, or does he wait to see what you're bringing into it and then try to draw
all
you
good
out
directors,
further?
all good directors, in my opinion, wait to see what you have to bring, and then either leave you alone, or make
stretch
very
it.
little, tiny little suggestions that are like a wellspring of, pardon me, it's inspirational. I remember Ron told me this. Ron was in Norma Ray and loved Marty Ritt, the director, and I've heard that he was a brilliant director. And Ron said, he played the union organizer, actually.
Yes, yeah, wonderful.
And he said in the beginning, Ron did a couple of scenes and Marty didn't say anything. And then one day Marty went over to him and he said, kid, just remember, he's trying to do a good job. And that's all he said. And it was like totally inspirational for Ron to.
What a great piece of direction, though. You're just trying to do a good job. It's like,
But that's the thing about, for actors too, to find that one.
Essence.
And somehow I think when you read a script, you sort of know if you can really play the character. I've read scripts where I know there's no way I could play the character. No way.
Just too far from who you are?
Yeah, just no way. I mean, let's say, I'm just going to say, for example, because I don't want to tell the real parts that I possibly could have played and didn't, but because I don't want to, offend the people that played them. But anyway, I mean, nobody's going to hire me to be some Midwestern kind of farm.
That's true.
Dame. Now I could play it.
Right.
But it's just
There's something urbane and
they just wouldn't, they just wouldn't hire me. Yeah. And I don't know if I could really play it as well as I could play some other parts. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to try. That's the thing, but you just know certain things are not up your alley, so to speak.
If you were faced with a particularly challenging role, would you turn to a coach, or do you have somebody that you turn to? Do your husband? I mean, anybody watch and give you that
I get a lot of free help from Ron. Ron is great.
Good coach, huh?
I have learned more from Ron about life, leading a good life, and his passion and his integrity about the work we do is absolutely inspirational. And Sue, that's true. I've told you that. He is so, I mean, if you've seen him work, you can tell. He just has such an integrity about what we do, and he's taught me really how to focus. He's helped me a lot. He helped me with the audition for Lucille.
Did
he? Yeah, he really did. Yeah, I really worked hard on that audition, but I work hard on all my auditions. I never want to seem unprepared.
Do you think you're a good auditioner? Some people we talk to say I'm a terrible auditioner. I hate.
I would say it depends on the circumstances and the role. To stand, to go up for a pilot, let's say. There are times when I've just totally bombed out, and sometimes I do very well in the room, but usually on videotape, it's a horror. And I haven't done. That's the first time I've done it in many, many years. Many. Because life is too short. It's just, after a certain point, it's like, all right, but this I had to. And I really felt an affinity to this role, and I thought the writing was worth it. It was worth bombing.
Taking that risk.
You know what I mean? It was worth bombing, it really.
So just in terms of sort of the audition process, I'm sure everybody's interested. Do you try to memorize the work before you go in, or just get very familiar?
Never memorize it, because then it's about, I have to remember the lines.
Yeah.
And I think you look so much more accomplished if you're reading the
holding it.
script. You should be really, really familiar with it, of
Absolutely.
course.
Yeah.
But no, I don't want them to think that I've memorized the script. That
You're not done yet, right?
Oh yeah, I'm like just beginning.
Yeah.
But I work on it very specifically. What do I want to accomplish in this scene? I just try to focus on the truth. And the thing is, the nerves that get in the way of auditioning and what have you. But if you really, from the time I get in my car, seriously, from the time I get up in the morning that day, I'm focusing. Yes. I don't listen to the radio in the car. I turn off the phone. It's all about
getting in the game.
That character and what I'm thinking about for that character.
Do you make pretty big choices in the audition process, or do you look for some essential element and go with that? Or?
When I read the script sometimes, it just, whatever usually first instincts occur to me, I try to hang on to because I think those are the freshest.
The right ones.
Yeah. I just try to do the truth.
Yeah.
What would be, as Stanislavski says, acting is behaving naturally in an imaginary situation. So that's what I try to go for. Even with a character, it's all based on, reality.
Do you have a worst audition that stands out in your mind? Some people.
Oh God, there've been so many. I can't even tell you. I mean, where I've gone home in tears that I couldn't believe how bad I was. Yeah. And it's usually because I didn't focus. I allowed the bad circumstances to get the better of me.
Right.
I'm trying to remember. There've been a lot.
Yeah. Well, if anyone comes to you along the way, you can just go,
me.
I remember.
Tonight I'll wake up in a nightmare about some of those awful auditions. Oh my God. But when you blow it, you just know. I walk. Yeah. But sometimes I think I've done terribly and then I get the job.
Yeah.
So go figure.
What does that say?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's jump to play Misty For Me. And how did you become aware of that? I mean, how did you get cast in?
Here's a funny thing about that.
Working with Clint.
Speaking of the group, Clint, the group had been done in 66 or so, and this was 70 he was doing it. Anyway, he was looking at the group for Joanna Pettit. He was looking at it for somebody else, and he liked me.
Wow.
He felt I was more right for that role. And he called me in. I didn't read for it.
You never read?
He called me into his little bungalow there in Universal and talked about the script. Did I think there was too much exposition? Did we need something to explain? And it was sort of like I felt like I almost had the job there. We were just talking. He offered me carrot juice. He was into his health things way before the rest of the world. And even though I hated carrot juice, I did drink it. And we just talked. And then I think a couple of days later, I got the offer. Amazing.
That's a great way to get
And then I learned from that, don't ever show the group to get a job. Because there's 8 girls in there. They could find somebody else.
That's not a good showcase reel then,
No.
Right.
No. In those days, we didn't have reels. There were no reels. Right. The reel was you, the real person going in there. There were no reels.
Yeah. So what was it like working with Clint? I mean, how is he as a director?
He very special. Talk about creating the climate to do good work. First of all, he doesn't like to rehearse too much, which I don't either in film, because you can overdo it with 49 takes. And so we were on the same. He didn't get in my way at all, which is already, this is how I judge directors, if they don't get in the way. He just made me feel like I was the only person that could play that part. He just made me feel so secure. He's a wonderful man and a wonderful director. He really is.
How did it go for him, wearing both hats? That was
his first.
Yeah.
Well, you know what he had? He had, Jerry Lewis had this, and Clint was the second person, now that everybody has it. He had the instant replay in a
video
truck.
assist.
Yeah. So after a take, they'd all run in,
Look at it.
watch the thing, and then they'd run out. And I never went in because it was like too horrifying to see myself. But he had the replay, like the football things or whatever. Now, of course, everything. Now,
Common.
the directors you have to scream across 4 stages to get to them. It used to be they were by the camera, but now they're in Video Village, we call it on our show. A little black tent with all the monitors. And you have to scream to get anybody's attention. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
It's astounding to me when I think about it. But anyway.
You know, sometimes when we're talking to actors, they'll talk about a director and he never looked at the monitor. He sat there and actually watched our performance.
I haven't had that in
it's
about.
a rare occurrence.
I can't even remember the last time somebody actually sat by the camera.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I really can't.
miss-
I can't. Oh, it's so much better the other way. It really is.
Your performance in Play Misty For Me was just, to me,
Oh my God.
so strong. I mean,
Yikes.
you walked on screen and it was like all eyes were on you.
you
And
are so
I
sweet.
agree. I don't think anybody else could have played that role.
Wow.
You just, you know.
I lucked out. First of all, that role was really
That's a juicy
written
role.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Written well, and that whole script was a little gem.
But working opposite somebody who's as strong and a presence as Clint Eastwood, and yet you were
But
toe
you know,
to
he
toe
gives
with
it
him.
to you. He's very generous. If you
Yeah.
notice, with all of his leading ladies, he likes
Yeah.
strong leading ladies.
Yeah.
You know, he had Time Daly in one of those Dirty Harry movies. Hilary Swank was brilliant, I think, in that movie. Geraldine Page in The Beguile with Elizabeth Hartman. He's always, you know, been the first one to be the generous actor and let you do the scene.
Yeah.
That's one of the wonderful things about him. You know, he really respects actors and actresses.
Did you see a
There's
big...
no ego with Clint. There's no ego. You know what I mean? He
That's
just
what it
wants
is.
to do the best job possible for the script.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
That's okay. No, please. I was going to ask, did life change for you after Play Misty For Me? Did you get more offers?
I did.
What-
I
yeah.
did get a lot more work after that.
And you got a Golden Globe nomination.
I
right?
did. In those days, I mean, we didn't even know there was no red carpet, nothing. I actually, at the time, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I wore this horrible maternity dress I ended up burning when she was born. It was so awful. You know, I was sitting there like this, and that year, this is my competition. I mean, did I know that I wasn't going to win?
Yeah.
It was Jane Fonda for Clute,
For Clute, yeah.
Diane Cannon for Bob Carroll, Ted and Alice,
Oh, my goodness.
Glenda Jackson and Vanessa Redgrave for Mary Queen of Scots, and me. Well, hello, in a movie nobody saw. I mean, it was
A movie nobody
hysterical.
saw? Nobody saw Play Misty
Not
For
at
Me?
the time when it came out. It didn't do well at
You're
all.
kidding
It's
me.
become like a cult film because of TV.
Oh,
Yeah, it didn't do well.
I remember seeing it. It scared the bejesus out of
I'm
me.
so
You were
glad.
scary. You were really scary. Did you have fun playing that kind of role, though? It must have been sort
Well,
of... you
those
know.
roles are the
Yeah.
good roles.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been the ingenue.
Yeah.
I think I've always been a character actress. Actually, I really do. And I remember once I went up for John Wayne movie shortly after that, and I didn't get it because they said we don't see her as the girl watching the guy going off with the horse into the sunset. She's not the girl. You know what I mean? They used to say the girl
girl,
in the
right,
movie.
right.
I was never the girl. So in a way, you know, it was sad then because I didn't get to play opposite some of those people. But on the other hand, it's good for longevity if you can play character parts.
Yeah.
You know.
Did Play Misty For Me, did that in any way pave the way for Amy Prentiss, or was that further apart than that? Or
No, actually, Amy Prentiss was just to explain to people who probably never heard of it because millions have not. It was in the mystery movie with Columbo
Right.
and McLeod.
Yeah.
It was like a 90
Name of the
minutes.
Game or something?
Name
Was
of the
it?
Game,
Yeah,
yes.
Name
It
of
was
the
the NBC mystery movies,
Right.
and it was a different
Right.
one every week or something. But anyway,
Macmillan and
originally, Macmillan, Originally, it was an episode of Ironside. Remember Raymond Burr?
Right, right.
And one day I got this call from my agent. He said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you know that episode of Ironside you did? Well, they want to make it into a 2-hour, mystery movie thing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I know, they wanted to, I had done the episode and they wanted to, there was some really terrific reason why I could stick them for a lot of money. They hadn't, because, they had done it. They had, in essence, done the pilot with no terms for me. Because it was just done as an episode. And then so I could stick them.
You had them, yeah.
And I tell you, it was somebody who was like a big casting lady at Universal, remember? She called, she said, Jessica, I don't know, if you, I'm just as a friend, whatever. And I said, well, you have to, I'm sorry. So I did, for once I got to stick it to them. Yeah. Especially Universal was at that time notoriously cheap. Notoriously cheap.
Feels good, doesn't it?
It did, yeah. And I tell you, it was a wonderful, wonderful little series. It didn't go on very long, but it was.
But you won the Emmy for it.
I did. That was absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, there you are, this statue and no show.
What do you remember about that night, about picking up the award?
I'll tell you what I remember about that night was that my husband was too cheap to rent a limousine. This is not Ron. This is not Ron. We had no idea, never having been to one of these things, but the traffic. Yeah. We did have the little placard, but nobody cared because we were 15 blocks away. And I had to go running from the car and banging on the door. The doors close at a certain point. And I had to, explain to them that I was one of
I'm nominated.
The nominees. And that's what I remember about that. It was hysteria.
That's wild.
We didn't know. We were so innocent. We didn't know from limousines, nothing. We didn't have press agents. Nothing.
So I'm just going to take a wild guess. You're going to rent a limo this time, yes?
Well, actually, Fox will provide.
Oh, good. Yeah.
See, Universal was too cheap. They wouldn't give anybody cars. It's true.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
It's true.
Yeah. That's so silly. So, from that point, you know what I wanted to touch on? Amy Prentiss, you had somebody playing your daughter there that went on to be quite a star.
Helen Hunt.
Right.
9 years old.
Wow.
She was
she was talented even back then, wasn't she?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely actress.
Have you had a chance to work with her since she's developed?
No, I've run into her a few times.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of her. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
Terrific.
That's great. So
I've had, my first mother role ever.
What?
And I remember I was 36 years old and she was, I think, 23. And I thought, But anyway.
Interesting math.
It was the beginning of my mother period, 36.
Yeah.
Was Kim Cattrall.
Oh, my goodness.
In an episode at Universal of a thing called Class of 65.
Huh.
There you go.
There you
so
go.
I've had wonderful. Yeah. I've had a couple, maybe one that I really didn't like. I won't tell you who, Screen Daughters. Okay. But the rest of them, I wonderful. Yeah. There was one that was really
well, you have to, black sheep in every family, so.
Anyway.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Then, to me, during the 70s and the 80s, you were on so many television series.
But they had a lot of them then. They had a lot of them.
There were, but you were always so solid.
Thank you. Yeah. But you know something funny that we forget? And I remember when this reality programming started, maybe 7 years, 8 years ago, and how offended we actors were and everything. And now we're so used to it. We're so that they take up half the hours on television that we could have our actors working. We sort of, you become numb to it after a while, and then once in a while I think, I can't believe it. Right. Universal used to have the makeup department, they had 40 rooms, every one of them occupied, for all the shows that they used to do there, and Quinn Martin had 7, 8 shows that he was shooting. And now, really, and they used to do 39 episodes.
Right.
Now, if you get 6, you're lucky.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a whole other, I don't know. I thought this reality thing was going to die out, but it's not. It's too cheap for them to do. There's too many enticements for them to do it.
And we're just plumbing the depths of how low we can go,
I'm sorry, somebody says it.
I said, does anybody watch them?
Apparently
I don't.
so, yeah.
I don't watch them.
They're
but a lot of
proliferating,
people
so.
do.
Yeah.
A lot of people do.
Yeah. Well, let's just, because I'm so curious about all these different shows that you were in, let's just take McCloud, for one. Dennis Weaver, what?
Oh, well, one of our former presidents.
Yeah.
Lovely man. Matter of fact, Dennis is recurring in a series that my daughter developed at ABC Family called Wildfire.
Oh, nice.
So it's funny, he's still working and wonderful. And I'd say Macmillan.
Uh-huh.
Rock Hudson.
Rock Hudson.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I can't even tell you how I love that man.
Yeah.
The best. Really, really very special.
Kind,
he became a special friend, and there was a part of me that the first day I met him, I almost fainted. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. We were all coming, came onto the set. There was the scene where he and I'm dancing with him, and he's wearing his, white tux or whatever, tails or whatever they call it, and I'm in my black Jeffrey Bean gown, and I'm saying to myself, I don't really believe that I'm standing here at 8 o'clock in the morning in this Jeffrey Bean gown and Rock Hudson. It was on my wall when I was growing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they're going to pay you.
I thought, I've really made it. I have made it.
Yeah.
I want to tell everybody in Astoria, Queens that this is happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I couldn't believe it. And he was the sweetest, the sweetest, kindest person.
Mm-hmm. Did he, generous as an actor as well?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Really, everybody loved him. I'm sure you probably. Yeah. It's sort of like Clint. There's certain actors you never hear a bad word about, ever.
Right.
And Rock was certainly one of them. So that was.
Yeah. How about Carl Malden, Streets of San Francisco?
I got an Emmy nom for that.
I know you did. That's why I brought it up.
I saw him recently too. He's the most elegant, dignified man, very good to work with, very professional. I don't know how he memorized all those lines. They would. Well, I guess I do because I used to do it. You know what I mean, on those hour shows, where you every day it's a whole 7-8 pages, but the hour shows go more slowly, so you have a little more time than the comedies. But I liked him a lot.
Columbo, you worked on that several times.
Peter Falk. That character is just, it's for the ages, that character.
Yeah.
He was, well, he was great, but I'll tell you what happened on that show was everybody wanted to do it. And I got a nice role on it. And I had one scene in particular that was about 5 pages long, which was the crux, of my part. I was in it, but all the guest stars, I was not the person that got killed. I was like his wife. And Peter was, rewrite things, or he'd be at his trailer rewriting, and it was all they naturally catered to him, and he was so brilliant. And one day the AD came to me, I was waiting in location or something, and he said, we're going to cut that scene in the basement. That was like my main scene. So I went, because Peter was in charge of the whole thing. Right. I went to his room, I with trepidation, I knocked on the door, and I said, I need to speak to you. I said, listen, I know that the name of the show is Columbo, and my character's name is Maggie. I said, but, I have a reputation to uphold too. And I took this job because that's the crux of the scene. And I understand if you want to cut it, but if you don't shoot it, I don't have a chance. Right. You know what I mean? Right. He kind of looked, how I never knew an actor that was good that wasn't greedy. and he shot the scene and it was in. It stayed in.
Is that right? Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Felt vindicated, did you?
I did.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
So that one worked out.
Yeah.
There have been some that didn't, but that one worked out.
It's important for people to stand up for themselves. I mean,
It
know
is.
the limits, but to push it where you have to.
Right? I was honest with him.
Yeah.
I know it's not my show.
Yeah.
But I also, a deal was made. And I have a reputation too. I don't want to be on a show and 3 little lines and goodbye.
Right.
And he understood that.
You did it in a respectful way too.
Of course. He was very sweet. He was very sweet. And I was really shaking in my boots, but I thought I had to say something because, it would be too humiliating to be on Columbo, which was a big show at the time. And, hello, who was that? So.
Yeah. Nice role on Just Shoot Me, too.
There's one of my great daughters.
Yeah.
I played Laura San Giacomo's daughter. And I must tell you, to be honest, they had wanted Anne Bancroft, but she didn't want to do it. So lucky me.
Is that right?
I was very happy, very thrilled to be considered after Anne Bancroft, who I thought was so brilliant.
She was.
I remember when I was a young girl seeing her in Two for the Seesaw and seeing her in The Miracle Worker. I mean, just amazing. She was an inspiration for a young actress.
What kind of, if you've seen, you've certainly seen so many changes in the business. We've talked about some of them, but in that sort of heyday of the 1 hour episodic, what do you see that's changed, fundamentally to doing a 1 hour episodic now? You've done Law and Order and you've done some of the popular 1 hours now. What's different about them now?
Well, they've done a lot more quickly. I think we used to have 9 or 10 days to do an hour, and now a lot of shows 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And of course, digital. They use digital, so there's no setups really. They used to set up and put the lights and whatever, but now it's all sort of handheld and.
It's got that verite kind of.
I don't know. There are some very good. I the shows that I like The Sopranos. The good shows, I think, still, there's always good shows. But I don't know, Ron just did 3 of The Sopranos. And he said they do it very quickly.
Yeah.
They do it quickly, but, with great care.
Right.
Great care. And the writing is so brilliant, of course.
Yeah. Is there any role that you'd love to play that you haven't gotten a chance to play yet? Either by character.
Yeah, I think I'm too old now for this one, but I always used to say to Ron, let's do this play, but he didn't want to do it. I'd like to play Virginia Woolf.
Yeah.
But I think I'm too old now. Well. And he would be so brilliant, Ron, to be George. But he always said to me, well, Martha's the better part. I don't want to play George. Now, in a funny way, I think George is a brilliant role.
I do too.
But go figure.
Huh.
Yeah. That role, I don't know. Wow.
I think you should do it anyway. You guys should just do it.
Well. Yeah.
This is a
right.
role reversal. Right. Yeah. Well.
That would be interesting. I'm going to suggest that. He could play Martha. Yeah, that's such a great play.
It really is. It really is. Well, let's get some of the audience questions here. Let's see. Jim Crite asks, what do you like or find most fulfilling about your character in, is it Aaron's Way? Is that
Oh, Aaron's Way. Where's
Jim?
that?
There he is.
Oh, Jim, I love that show so. Another one of my series that hit the dust. I really did. What did I like about it, are you asking?
Yeah.
Well, of course, the writing. And I loved that character. She was like a down-to-earth sort of dame. And the cast, Merlin Olsen, who was the nicest person that ever lived. That was a really good show, I thought, in 13 and Goodbye. But thanks for remembering.
Assistant director trainee on the show.
Oh, wow.
You were very, very sweet and kind to everybody on the crew. So
See, people remember that kind of stuff,
I remember when people are nice to me too.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to be nice to people than not.
plus it's such
That's
a
what I
tough
don't
business.
understand
Come
about
on.
when people are not nice. It's like easier.
Yeah.
It goes quickly when you're nice to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for asking about that show, which I did love.
Thanks, Jim.
Ron, my husband did an episode with me. Were you there for that one? He played the ex-husband. He was so good.
The husband playing the ex-husband.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
see, now things just get too weird.
Yeah.
Ian Ray says the performances are your performances are so consistently brilliant on Arrested Development.
Oh my God.
And the material is so bizarre. Is there anything unique about the staging or the production methods that make that possible? Is it We were talking about sort of the
Well, the
lack
writing.
of setups. It's always the writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
The
who
atmosphere.
is the person?
Ian Ray.
Ian.
Right there.
Working with those good actors. You know, the better the people are around you, the better you look. And when you've got a good tennis partner there, that's really, I mean, Jason Bateman is astounding.
Did you say you're doing a lot of takes on that show?
Yes, way too many for my taste, but they do a lot of takes. They cover from every angle. They cover themselves.
There's so much happening on so many levels. It just
Right.
dazzles the-
Yeah. I'm glad that you think so. I'm thrilled that you see that too. You know, and that's one of the reasons they cover it so intensely, because there is so much going on. And that's one of the reasons I think, you know, people have to pay attention to the show if they're watching it. It's not something that's just
Right.
kind of, you know, escapist entertainment. And I don't know that people tune in Fox to pay attention. You know what I mean? And this is nothing against Fox. I mean, I admire Fox, you know.
That's just not their trademark. Or,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I kinda do.
And they're trying to change that, obviously,
Yeah,
which is why they're sticking with our show, and 24, which is a
Right.
wonderful show. But I never watched Fox before I was on it. Did you?
Yeah, actually, there are a few shows that I would
Yeah,
watch on it, but
well,
you
no,
know, I know what
before.
you're saying.
Before,
Yeah,
I just,
yeah.
it never occurred to me. Except The Simpsons, of course.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant writing.
See, I like shows that make you have to work a little bit at it. You know.
Yeah, I
you
do
know,
too.
I think that's part of the interaction.
Remember Murder,
the
She
interplay.
Wrote? I did a lot of those.
Oh yeah.
It was always fun to watch it, to figure out, you know, who did it.
Mm-hmm.
Before she would tell you in her last scene, you know, she
exposition,
would have
yeah.
like poor Angela with the 15-minute explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Who did what to who? But a lot of people love that show because they love
Yeah.
to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. How was she to work with?
The best.
Dream. Yeah.
The best.
Another one of those
One of
actors
those
that you never
special-
hear a bad word about
Yeah,
her.
she's a great lady.
Yeah.
Great lady.
John Dyer V says, how did you prepare for your portrayal of Evelyn Draper in Play Misty For Me? P.S. The group was on the Flicks channel last night. You look gorgeous in it.
Oh, who's that?
Where's John?
Hey,
There he
John,
is.
thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I just meant, did you study psychiatry texts? Because you were so textbook in that.
You know,
Yeah.
I really, I worked a lot on the inner, you know, I made up the whole backstory that nobody ever saw. But I mean, because there was no exposition, which I loved, that suddenly this person. But I really, you know, I sifted and thought, and I didn't really study any psychiatry. I just thought of it from, you know, that kind of desperation, that kind of what that would lead somebody to. And personalized it. You know, personalizing is really important. You know what
Well, I
I mean?
loved what you said earlier about that she was, if she
Yes,
didn't get
that was
this
the
man,
handle.
she was going to die.
But personalizing is so
yeah.
important. Even with Lucille Bluth, I personalize. You know, I try to think of something in my life that is, you know, a substitute.
Right.
So it makes it personal.
Right.
And you know, even if you're reading like a voiceover for an audition or something, or you get a voiceover, which I've done many actually, I always personalize it. I make it about something that means something to me, and it's interesting how different it sounds when you do that. Really important. But thanks for the question.
Yeah, you've done some animated.
Yeah, I just
right?
did
You
one
dinosaurs.
last
and you
week. I
what
did
you,
Higglytown Heroes.
I don't know this one.
Okay, all right. I didn't.
My daughter's 13, so she.
Yeah,
No,
this
we
is
don't-
always
yeah,
just
this is young. Yeah.
It's a Disney thing.
Uh-huh.
Higglytown Heroes.
Yeah. Nobody
No one
knows,
ever.
huh?
Okay.
All right. All right. You know.
I'm a Higglytown hero. Yeah, the guest always gets to sing.
Oh, is that right?
You get to
So
sing
you
the
get to
song.
sing. Oh,
Yes,
that's great.
I was the motel manager.
Uh-huh.
I'm the motel manager of this town, and it was great. You know,
Yeah.
you walk in
Yeah.
for like you know, an hour.
Yeah.
You have fun, and you get paid.
Isn't that a great? You know, that's a great gig.
But you know, one animation thing, except it wasn't animation actually, that I love this job. was Dinosaurs, the series. It was on
Yeah.
ABC,
Yeah.
and I was the mom.
Woohoo!
I was
That was such a
Fran. I was the mama.
Yeah,
And,
not the mama.
Not the mama, right. And that was, animatronic. You wouldn't call that animation, I don't think. That was animatronic, huge, big.
Yeah, puppetry almost, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And there were 3 people to the character. There was the voice, which was last. There was the fellow in the suit, and then there was a fellow off
Puppeteering,
doing the face of the guy. Right. And I get very involved in all my little jobs.
Do you?
And they changed bodies. They had a different guy go in.
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't like what he was doing at all with the body. And I called up the producer. I was in tears. I said, it's very difficult. He's destroying because we have to adjust. We're the last people in there.
Right.
They also, this is something I'll share with you too, which is only in showbiz. After the first year of Dinosaurs, I got a call during the summer. It was right before to pick up the options, and it was a producer, Michael Jacobs, who's a very, very nice fellow to me. He said, "Listen, I want to call you personally. I want you to know that we may have a problem with picking up your option because Fran's head has been sent to the creature shop in London, and they're going to give her a facelift, and we don't know if your voice is going to fit the new head." And first of all, of course, my heart was pounding. Yeah. And I said, well, I really appreciate your calling to tell me this, in person. And he said, but don't lose hope. I said, well, thank you so much. Well, for a month, I walked around with such anxiety, I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, they decided it was okay that my voice fit the new Fran. Only in showbiz.
That is wild.
Can you believe this?
My God. Yeah. Yeah. So you could tell people.
He was serious, this guy. Her head was being sent to this place for a facelift, and then they did.
I lost the job because my dinosaur got a facelift. It's like,
it's like when you go on a voiceover. Say, I went on one for, I think it was Meow Mix. Mm-hmm. And this is recently. Mm-hmm. And they said, we want the, oh, no, wait a minute. This was another one. But one from a few years ago was for Borden's milk. Mm-hmm. And, Elsie the cow is their, was their main logo. Mm-hmm. And they wanted they wanted the moo of a cow that had been happily married for 10 years. Not 9 and not 11.
Well, listen, that sounds different than a floozy cow. Come on.
Can you believe this? And of course, you have to, they're all sitting there, the clients with their suits and ties.
Right. And they're doing this.
Okay, so, you stand there and you moo for like 5 minutes. I didn't get that job.
You didn't?
No. I was not convincing in that one.
And yet here you've been happily married for all these years.
It's like poor Ron. Ron has no patience for voiceovers. As you all know who do voiceovers, there's like 1,800 auditions to one get. Right. And he doesn't have the patience for it, but he finally got one. We were living out here. It was for a pig in the Charlie the Tuna commercials. They used to have these little animated. He was so excited. Oh my God. And the day of the session, his agent called and she said, Ron, I don't know how to tell you this, but they've decided to go a different way with the pig. He did get paid thanks to the union.
Absolutely,
because he was
right.
booked. He got
booked
the day's salary.
Yeah.
But can you imagine?
What a different way with the pig.
Who would believe these stories? If you told civilians these stories, they wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. Now you've always moved pretty freely from medium to medium. You've been willing to do voiceovers and commercial work, but did you ever look at that as sort of a step down or anything?
Never.
It was just part of the job,
never.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, it's such a challenge to do a good voiceover, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Wow, I've some of the best times I've had have been trying to do good jobs on. I did for a while out here McDonnell Douglas. Right. And the ones that I get. Mm-hmm. Few and far between, but the ones that I do get are Southern California Edison. I did for like 7 years. Right. Are ones that tell a story. Mm-hmm. I don't get the ones where you have to have like the whiskey vodka. Yeah. come and use Dove soap, whatever it is. I never get those. I only get the ones where I think my acting
acting,
ability
yeah.
gives me the edge over somebody who just does it
Right.
vocally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, it's an acting challenge. I treat it like I would treat any acting job.
Cool.
It's
It's
and
a
when you
gig.
see that ludicrous copy to make sense of it,
Right.
and the grammatical errors that they have that you have to say because you don't dare to change a word. But no, I love that.
But then they
stuff.
followed up with good checks afterwards, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I just like what I do. I like acting.
Yeah.
I never could have stuck it out this long if I didn't really love it. I couldn't have put up with the BS. I really couldn't have.
Yeah.
Because there's so much of it.
Yes, there is. Yes,
know?
there is.
But I have a passion for it, and
Yeah.
that it keeps
Oh,
me
it shows.
grounded.
Yeah.
Grounded, and I can accept and reject. I understand, okay, and I'll listen to that. And sometimes, a lot of times with directors, you go, oh, okay, and then you do it exactly like you did, and they don't even know the difference.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Or that one was perfect. Let's do one more.
Yeah. Or they'll say,
Yeah.
God, that was great, and I say,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was so great that
Yeah.
we're going to do 10 more.
Exactly. Anna Califia asks, do you have any mentors? If so, who? Well, I'll do one question at a time. Any mentors?
I had a lot of help from people. Who's asking the question?
Anna?
Anna. You know, there was a character actor named Henry Jones. I don't know if anybody remembers Henry, a wonderful actor. And he was in my first, I was in his first play, Advise and Consent. He was one of the senators. And we got to be friendly, and he introduced me to Monique James and Eleanor Kilgallen, who were very important casting people at Universal. Eleanor was in New York, and Monique was out here. And the first job I got out here actually was Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and Henry was living out here, and they flew me out, and I didn't know what a mark on a floor was. I didn't know when they sent, at your hotel door is like a whole bunch of pages. I didn't know how to collate the pages. I mean, Henry helped me do everything. And I once said to him, I said, Henry, because consistently he was so wonderful to me, I said, how can I ever repay you for what you've done for me? And he said, oh, Jesus, was that me?
I don't know.
I'll write in the middle of my great story. All right, let me take it back.
That's right. Take it back to one. Here we go.
Right at the punchline.
Henry Jones. So,
I
Henry
said,
Jones, yeah.
Henry, how can I ever repay you for what you've done for me? And he said, pass it on.
Oh.
He was a great, great gentleman. Monique was very helpful to me. Monique at Universal. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I just had the luck to know a lot of wonderful people. There was a fellow who just died recently, a wonderful actor named Stephen Elliott. Does anybody know him? He's married to Alice Herson. And one of my first Broadway shows, Photo Finish, he was the understudy to Peter Ustinov, and I was having a terrible time in the part. The director was English and very sort of not present. And Steve really helped me. He just took me aside and he helped me with the part, and it got like instantly better in a day. I mean, that kind of, generosity from people has been so vital, so important.
And you found ways to pass it on with colleagues that you've worked with?
I hope so. I hope so. I try to do that. I do. It's important.
Did some of your cast members on Arrested Development ever approach you
those
about
people
work?
don't want my advice.
No?
They're already
got their own thing going.
They don't
huh?
need me.
Yeah,
They're doing great
yeah,
on their own.
Yeah.
Also, there's as you know, as actors, there's a certain protocol.
Yes.
Unless somebody asks you, you
Right.
don't dare to say a word
Right.
about a performance.
Yeah.
So if somebody asked me, I would, I've tried to, get people jobs,
Yeah.
people that I cared about, and that I thought were good. So I've
do
tried
what you
to be.
can.
I've tried to pay back because I think
Yeah.
I've been incredibly fortunate. I really have.
Anna had a second question here. Any profound experience that altered your life or the way that you live life? Or maybe it's just in terms of career, because it was a...
Well, 9/11 certainly changed everything for everybody, including
Were
me.
you in New York? With
Yeah, I was. Luckily, we live uptown. Phew.
them?
But I just think that changed, your appreciation for what you have. And marrying Ron was really the smartest thing I ever did, ever.
How long have you guys been married?
It'll be 23 years next June.
So
And
maybe it'll last, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is it.
Yeah.
He's, been so important to my life and the way I live my life. And my daughter is great.
I was going to ask.
Great.
Being a parent.
Wonderful. Being a parent, yes. Much more important than being an actress, actually.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Did you ever have to make choices?
I did.
Based
I
on
did.
being a parent?
And I would always choose, my daughter first. Now, a lot of times I took her with me if I was going on location. But when they get into school age, it's difficult.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not a, there's no question,
Right, right. Yeah. What advice would you give to an actress just starting out in L.A.? She also puts "You are amazing," but she did not put her name on here. Do you have anybody want to copy that
Anonymous.
question? We could all use the advice, so it really doesn't
Anyway.
matter. But
Oh my God, starting out in
Starting
LA, I
out-
can't even imagine it. I can't even imagine it. It must be so difficult.
theater,
You
they do
know.
theater.
Absolutely, absolutely, or whatever you can, Actually, if anything can stop you from being an actor, you should let it, because you're not going to get anywhere if you don't have the blinders on. You got to have those blinders on. I can't even imagine starting out here. It must be so difficult,
We
without
talk-
an agent.
Well, and that's a
And that's like
challenge in and of
a
itself.
catch-22. How do you get an agent?
Yeah.
If you don't get work,
Right.
boy.
All the more reason, though, I suppose, to be doing theater or something that
Yes,
an agent can
of
come and
course.
see you in, and hopefully.
Waiver theater, I think Equity's made it easier, to get shows done.
We talked about training earlier. How important do you think that is? I mean, is it still important?
Yes.
Even though the business has changed, it's still something that
Oh,
you're going to have to
it's-
fall back on.
Absolutely. I don't think you fall back on training.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
think
mean
you are your
Support you.
Yeah, you are
yeah.
your training.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is a profession.
Yes, it is.
And
Yeah.
a lot of these fly-by-nights that you see on TV that you never see again. I mean,
Yeah.
or when they use these reality show people that are giving them parts in soap operas as a prize and whatever. When we were on the board, we were so against that. Giving. But
Right.
now everybody just accepts that people.
Do it.
Hey, I'm an actor. I won an island or whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, it's astounding.
Yeah. Right. Well, maybe it's a cycle, huh? Maybe we'll get out of it.
I don't think it's a cycle. I
mean,
think
we're
it's
gonna be
here to
doomed for this
I
forever?
think it's here to stay. I really do.
Yeah.
I think things have gotten, beyond where they're ever going to be back to, because it's all based on the banks and money.
Right. Right.
For instance, Universal could have, let's say, 25 television shows going,
Right.
and they didn't all have to be hits, because the ones that were hits would subsidize the ones that weren't.
Right.
But now you don't even have 25 television shows that are dramas going at all.
Of course, you have
Maybe-
180 channels out there, and
Yeah, well,
audiences
cable
are
is important,
spread
but of
all
course
over
they
the
don't
place.
pay. Cable doesn't pay.
No, it doesn't, does it? Yeah.
No. And they get away with reruns like it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You sign all your reruns away on cable, which I've never quite understood, but that's another issue.
Okay, we're going to need you for the next negotiations. The cable
Oh,
contracts.
I wish
come
I
up
had. I
next.
wish I had the time to do it here. I really do.
Okay.
I've gotten into many a fight on the negotiations.
Bet you did. Nina.
Nina Diamante.
Oh, Nina!
Do you
my
remember when we
darling.
were on the board together?
I know. How great to see you.
Great to see you too. What I wanted to ask you is, with the situation of way things are today, would you run for the board, particularly with a reduced board and what's been going on in the industry?
The problem is I live in New York.
Well, we have
So,
we have
I know
board
you have the
members
board,
in New York as well.
I know. I would consider only after maybe the show was. The show. It takes so much
Settling in,
time.
yeah.
I don't feel I could do a really good job. But if I ever do feel that I could do a good job, nothing would thrill me more than to be back in the fray. And what a fray it is! Oh my God! I mean,
think
we had a
it's-
fray back then too,
Yeah.
but not like this.
I think it's much more of a fray
Yeah,
now.
it's a
They asked me if
Fraying
I'd
at
run
the
again, and I
edges.
said no.
yeah, it's a phew. But listen, thank God, at least there are people that care. and
I
that
was
are-
just going to say, it's just so important that people care so passionately about this.
Yeah.
I just hope we can find ways to agree and unify, because
Yeah.
that's where the strength is.
I want to say that it is so great to see one of us who is on the experienced side of 40, who's working regularly. God bless you.
Thanks, thanks. Yeah, I mean, hello, knock wood. Yeah, there's not, they don't write a lot of parts for us.
Do you
us
write at
older
all?
folks.
Do you ever write?
I used to write letters. Nobody writes letters
No,
anymore.
email,
Yeah, nobody.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not a writer really. I mean,
Yeah.
I so admire people that can write.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sarah asks the question, you played Adrian Brody's mother in Dummy.
I
a
did, and Ron was
wonderful
the
independent
father.
film. And what?
Ron played.
Ron
the
was the father. That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
I had to con him into it.
How did you get involved in that project? Where's Sarah?
My agent, Sarah. Oh, Sarah, my agent called me. This was a little, no money, whatever, New Jersey. For a while there, I was only doing little waiver movies in New Jersey. But anyway, he called, and Adrian wasn't Adrian then. He had not done the pianist.
Yeah.
And but I had seen him, and the script I thought was really good. And I even conned Ron. I said, "Oh, Ron," they just offered it to me. I said, "Ron, it's a teeny little part, but please, please, please." And he didn't. They cut a lot of his good stuff out. But it was a hot summer in New Jersey, that I can tell you.
And how, they just came to you and said, "Would you please
Yes.
do this role?"
That does happen once in a while.
Yeah, well, yeah,
It actually does.
yeah.
Thank
It's
goodness.
nice, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else specifically you want to know about that? No, you're good?
No, I just,
Okay.
You're an established actress and you're in this tiny little film. I just wondered how that.
Well, for instance, Ron, he was in Personal Velocity.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have a huge role in it. He was in Garden State. He just had the one scene where he was a little, did very well. But,
Good film too.
actors have to act.
Right.
I feel blessed that I get these little jobs. I mean, honestly, it's, we have to practice our craft. So thank God somebody's calling on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
This gentleman, I think.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm TJ. Thanks so much for coming out and being so candid. I'm really glad I came.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. Anything for my union. Really, I really feel passionately about this union. I really do. When I joined Equity, it was in 1961. I was very young. And they had a contest. It was called Miss Union Maid, MAID.
Uh-huh.
And the winner got to be in the Labor Day Parade in New York. And I won, and that was my first
Oh, my
union
goodness.
experience, Actors Equity. I was Miss Union Maid. Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, this is really
Yeah.
fun. I wanted to ask you, when you mentioned earlier about sort of learning over time to not give your power away in terms of not being so focused on pleasing other people. And it sounds like you've really sort of, learned how to do it differently. And I'm just curious if you'd talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I think you're talking about finding the middle ground. You got to find the middle ground. And there's just, ways of, in a nice way, sort of being strong about what you believe in and that what you believe is right for the character. I mean, there's a lot of compromising though. And it's funny because whenever I've argued about something, it hasn't been about the size of a dressing room or, makeup or hair. It's been about the work. And I think that people respect that. Even if you're like a pain in the ass, they respect it. They do, because it's just to make their thing better. But it's sometimes, luckily with Arrested Development, the creator producer is really quite brilliant and very open to suggestion. And, knowing, feeling, it's sort of like I once said to this, who was it I said it to? I can't remember, but it was like some big director on some movie of the week or something. And he was giving me direction. They give every line they give you now. I mean, I don't know if you would come into this, but it seems that the writers and the writing people are running the show now, where it used to be the director. Mm-hmm. And they give you line readings or whatever. And I once said to somebody, I said, you hired me for the job. You got to trust me to do this job. Mm-hmm. So it's a hard question to answer, but I just sort of know, I think I know when to speak up and when not. And a lot of times I just sort of, I try to do what they want without giving, without feeling badly about that I've given away something important. I try to keep it in the middle, but it's not easy.
Do you sometimes do it their way and then ask for another take so that they have the option, or do you feel
well,
like
if
that's
I
sort of
really
last
think
times?
their way is wrong,
Yeah.
I don't do it their way because they'll use it.
Right. That's where it was.
And that's where once in a while I've sort of gotten into trouble, but then I think I make up for it in other ways, so they don't get mad at me.
Mm-hmm. Oftentimes I hear actors say that, if I could just figure out what it is they're looking for. Is it more important to know what it is they're looking for, or to be clear about how it is that you're going to do the work? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think many times when actors get a job, they walk in and they own that part.
Right.
And then so the people on the other side of the table say, that's what we're looking for.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even though that wasn't necessarily written down.
I don't worry about what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I do what I have to do, and then if that's what they're looking for, I'll get the job.
Yeah.
Do you understand the difference? I don't care what they're looking for.
Yeah.
What I can give to them, either they will want it or they won't. And if they don't, then
they're not looking for you
too bad
anyway.
for me.
Yeah.
Then they're not looking for me.
Right.
But a lot of the parts that I've gotten, like with Lucille, I really felt like I owned this woman. I did.
Yeah.
I really did. I can't
You do.
explain it. Even in the
Come on.
audition, there was something about the audition. The scene was so well written too. It was cut by half in the pilot. But anyway, it was like a great scene. I just can't explain it. But then I felt like I've owned things, and I didn't get them. So, yeah.
But that kind of goes along with that idea of trying to please. It's not so much about pleasing them. It's about being honest to your
pleasing
work.
myself.
Right, exactly.
And to use an audition as an acting experience.
Yeah.
You know
As
what
a
I
part
mean?
of the exploration.
Right.
Yeah.
I use it for myself rather than
Right.
for them.
Yeah.
How can I, do this and do it to my satisfaction?
Yeah.
Then if they don't want it, well, too bad for me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Any other burning questions? Here we go. Yes.
Hi.
You're on.
Oops.
Is it on? Oh. Susan DeMonte Shaw. I was your junior policewoman in Amy Prentiss.
Oh
back
my
then.
God. Did we have fun? Remember Art Metrano?
Fantastic, fantastic. And
Yeah.
I left the business 20 years ago, had children, went through a terrible disease, overcame my disease. And last year my husband said he didn't want to be married anymore. So I'm starting a whole new life, and I'm coming back to acting. And I came here to sort of get some encouragement about how to go about it now. It's just like a whole new ball game. And I didn't know whether to write a letter to casting directors who are still around to say I'm back, or to try to get an agent first, or to try to call people, or,
I would say all of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if there are some casting people around that are still, that you knew, definitely to get in touch with them with a picture, resume, letter, phone call. starting over is a good, exciting thing. Never easy, but yeah, perseverance. Remember I said that before, perseverance. Oh, so important.
Clearly, you're somebody who's already persevered.
Yeah.
Personal.
Yeah, good for you. It's so great to see you. My God, that was 30 years ago. 30 years ago.
It's a small
Jesus
thing, but
Christ.
this is a good time for a little commercial. The Screen Actors Guild Foundation has a program called the Casting Access Project. And if you come down and take the orientation, which is part just learning how the whole project works, and the other part will be a Q&A with an actor and a casting director. Then 4 times a year, you can come in for cold readings with casting directors whom you have not met. So that's a nice way to
That
start.
is
No
great.
cost to anybody. Another good thing that the union and the foundation are doing together.
That is great. I didn't know about that. That's very
Yeah.
exciting. I'm going to tell several people that I know about that,
good.
actually.
Good. Now see, this has turned into an infomercial.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had a question up here. Yes, sir.
Hi, Justin Marchert. First, I just gotta tell you that Arrested Development is like the best show on television.
There you go.
By far.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys! I'm so thrilled. Oh my
There it
God. I'm going
is.
to tell them all tomorrow.
I'm
Yeah.
not just blowing smoke about it. Everyone I recommend it to, it takes them like an episode to get into it because they have to meet the characters and get
Right.
the situation and everything. But by episode 2, they're just hooked. I've lent out my first season DVD so many times, I've lost them. Do you know when season 2 is coming out, by the way, on DVD?
It's coming out soon. We just did the extra little voiceovers and things for it.
Awesome.
Of course, we wish we got better residuals on it, but
Yes.
they made a fortune on that DVD. And I won't even tell you how small the check for the actors is. It's like absolutely embarrassing. Well, we're working on it, though, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
You know,
But it's coming out.
pushing that rock up the hill.
And then, of course, I have so many questions about your character. But in a nutshell, what do you think is Lucille's take on each of our children? She clearly she loves them and hates them and uses them so many times. What's her final analysis, do you think?
I've always played it that she really loves her children. She really, really does. She loves herself more.
Yeah, well.
But she just, her mothering goes astray. I think as she loves Buster.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you, Tony Hale, who plays Buster, is so brilliant.
Oh, man.
Isn't he something? I mean, yeah, I'm going to tell him you applaud for him. It's just, let's see how lucky I am that I get to work with these people. And I think she has great respect for Michael Bluth, Jason, and I think she adores Portia, but, she's got to sit her on the right track all the time. And Will I think she sort of doesn't know how to deal with Will.
Who would?
He's sort of the black sheep of the strange, really strange one in the family. But what a group of kids, And they're all nice. They're all very, very nice. So that helps too. Yeah, we have fun. You got a lot of fireworks going on there with these people.
I'll bet.
This is not your little calm,
And then you have yourself and Jeffrey Tambor, a couple
Jeffrey
of veterans
Tambor,
on
yes.
there that are grounding. I
David
think.
Cross.
Yeah.
The kids are fabulous, those 2 children.
Yeah.
And they are so nice.
Are they?
And the mothers are nice.
See, that really matters. Yeah. Big surprise there.
Yeah, they're great, really.
Good. We have another question here?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, Rob Hoffman.
Hi.
Pleasure.
Simple hi through them.
Yeah.
You see that? That was
Do you
good.
get involved with a lot of the post of it?
The post-production?
Yes, exactly. Getting in there with the editors and.
We, except for the looping, we used to call it looping in the old days, now they say ADR. We have absolutely nothing to do with the post. We just, we sometimes have to do the ADR, but nothing. Maybe they have to reshoot something, but a lot of reshoots.
Yeah.
A lot of reshoots.
Which is interesting because they got all that coverage and still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually because of writing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And how is season 3 coming along?
The first script I actually just got today.
Yeah.
We start Thursday, and it's quite funny. The Lucille stuff is I can't even tell you. It's so good. I can't. I really can't. I'll just say this. Lucille finally, this is the gist of my story in the first one, and I'm not giving anything away. Lucille stops taking her postpartum depression medication. And she's been taking it for 32 years.
Yeah.
That's how depressed she's been
explains a
about
lot.
Buster. She's been 32 years. And that, it's kind of like, that's the gist of my storyline.
Oh,
and
that's
how crazy
funny.
I get because I'm off my medication.
That's too funny.
And I had, and also that Lucille, I shouldn't be telling this, but Lucille tells Michael how she saw this very handsome young doctor on the Today Show talking about the medication and how it can lead to how mood-altering medication can lead to street drugs. And he said, well, I think that was Tom Cruise. She said, oh, no, it was a scientist. I mean, are these writers brilliant?
Oh, that's so funny.
So that's the clue I'll give you.
Okay.
I think the episode is very well written. Now, we have all
That's a
new
great
writers,
preview.
too,
Oh,
except
is that
for
right?
one guy, yeah.
Really? Why? What's
I
that?
don't know.
Yeah. Huh?
I don't know. But thank God we have Mitch Hurwitz, who's so brilliant.
Yes, he is.
I call him the commander-in-chief of courageous comedy.
Ah!
He's our commander-in-chief. He's really, really great.
That's great. Now, Jason has directed a few episodes.
Yes.
Do you have any interest in directing? Is that something that, no? Just not?
I don't think I
You're
do.
an actor
I
through
can
and
hardly
through.
do what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can't even
yeah.
imagine the stress.
Yeah.
To be more stressed than my little. Absolutely, I've never had a desire to direct.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Okay. Curious. One more here?
Okay.
Who's there? Last question. Here we go.
Anna Calafia, and it's a pleasure to meet you this evening. I wanted to find out, I saw Brian Grazer and Ron Howard's name in the credits. To what degree are they involved?
They're executive producers.
Yeah, they're the
Yeah.
exec producers.
And Ron does the narration, doesn't he?
He does. He's very involved because he narrates every show. The voiceover is Ron Howard. And
I'm afraid tonight's experience was my first watching the show,
Oh,
so
oh,
that's the reason I asked.
but that was Ron Howard. Did you know?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Isn't he great on the voiceover?
He is. He is. He's a good voice.
I don't know really how much they have to do with the day-to-day running, but Imagine TV, whose company they head, and David Nevins, who's the head too of it. I think they're very involved in approving the scripts and knowing what's going on, but on a daily basis, we don't see them. He's doing the Da Vinci Code right now,
Right.
and they're into their movies or whatever. This is the television arm of their company.
I'd like to ask you one more question.
Okay.
Here. What do you think makes a good actor? What is it that makes it? You've worked with so many good actors. What separates the good and the great and the not so good?
Oh boy, that's a hard one. Talent is such a indefinable, thing. It can't be learned. I mean, either you have a gift or you don't. And when you see somebody that has that gift, when you work with somebody that has that, it's you just know it. It's somebody that lights up the room, that gets to the. It's like Ron. I think of Ron actually. I sound like a crazy person talking about my husband, but when
It's
Ron.
nice you're crazy about your husband. That's a good
But
thing.
he just has a gift, and he's worked so hard to be true to that gift and not abuse it, and not pander, and not get caught in the traps sometimes that actors get caught in, trying to please people.
Right.
I just know it when I see it. When I'm working with it, I know, I just feel it. Like with Jason, for instance, I'll use Jason. Jason just has this gift. I mean, that part is difficult. He's in every scene. He's the straight man around, we all circle around these crazy people around him.
Yeah.
He can still be funny.
Yeah.
As the straight man, that's like he's so talented. That little twinkle in his eye, though. I love that little twinkle. He's great. He is great. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's really, what is talent? I mean, what is it?
Right.
But when you're moved by somebody, I mean, we saw Judi Dench do a little night music in London, and when she sang Send in the Clowns, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I mean, that's the ability to move people. Oh my God, is that from God? Okay, people.
We want to thank you again for
It's
being here
my
tonight.
great
You make us
pleasure.
feel good about being
Oh,
actors
good.
and
Thanks.
continued success, and we'll be rooting for you
Thank you
on
so
Emmy
much.
night.